Morning Year 4, happy Tuesday. I hope you're all feeling okay. I've got maths for you today and we are working on angles again. And I know yesterday we looked at understanding angles and what they are. And today we're going to use that knowledge and we're going to push it further. And we are going to start comparing two angles and ordering a few angles as well, so from biggest to smallest or smallest to biggest. So we're going to need to recap angles and ascending and descending orders. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've got on the board behind me a bit of a rewind. So I'm going to rewind and remind you that an angle is a turn. It's the measurement of a turn. So it's usually where the corner of a shape is, and it's measuring the turn or the distance between two lines. Okay, so we call it the measurement of a turn. And so I've got some questions on the board that will rewind yesterday because we looked at right angles, obtuse angles, and acute angles, and I did some silly voices, and I may break those out again this lesson, we shall see. So let me bring the board forward for you so it's in focus. Okay, so I will tilt it down so that you can see the questions as we go. So in your books, I'd like you to copy down the date and the title for me. And so when we have Discover and Think together, we write those, but I would like you to write rewind for me because this is a rewind on yesterday. We need to know this in order to do the rest of today's lesson. So I want those as your titles, and then I would like you to have a go at, I'll leave A, B, and C on the board first of all, and in a different coloured pen, I will draw on that angle for you because it's quite difficult to see. So on A and B, A and B, there are your angles. They're a little bit easier to see now. So question A is asking for the definition of an obtuse angle. So an obtuse angle is ... You finish that. For B, is this an acute, an obtuse, or a right angle? And for C, is this an acute, obtuse, or right angle? So those three first for me. Okay, and then questions D and E. We've got D is explaining what an acute angle is. So an acute angle is ... Finish that for me. And E, tell me what kind of angle this one is, and I'll draw it on in another coloured pen so it's easier to see. Okay, so I'd like you to pause and have a go at those for me. Okay, guys, so I'm going to go through the answers of our rewind for you. So we've got an obtuse angle is, and your definition should be something that it is any angle that is larger than a right angle. And extra points, if you can remember that it's, while it's larger than a right angle, it's smaller than a half turn, a flat straight line. So it's less than a quarter turn, which is a right angle, but it's more than a quarter turn. It's bigger than a right angle, but it's not bigger than a full halfway, a half turn. Okay, and so B is an acute angle, C is a right angle or a quarter turn. I will let you have either of those. D, an acute angle is ... So you should have got an answer saying that an acute angle is any angle that is smaller than 90 degrees. So smaller than 90 degrees, which is your right angle. So smaller than a right angle, smaller than 90 degrees, or smaller than a quarter turn. I'll take any of those answers. And then E is an obtuse angle because it is larger than a right angle, larger than that 90 degrees. Okay, well done guys, great rewinding. That will really help us with today's learning where we're going to be comparing and ordering different angles. So let me share the screen with you. Okay, so this Discover Today is asking for 1A, which ramp will allow the highest jump? So will Emma's ramp allow a nice high jump, or will it be Ebo's ramp that like gives you a nice high jump? And then for question B, at what angle would the ramps actually stop working as a ramp? So when would they not actually let you go forwards and fly nice and high through the sky? I want you to pause and have a go at those for me, Year 4. Okay, I'm going to go through the answers now. So Emma's ramp is the ramp that would give the highest jump because it's a greater angle, so it will take her higher into the sky, and Evo's ramp is a little bit lower. Now, do you think, I've got a question for you, do you think you can tell me what kind of angle they are? Both of them are the same kind of angle. They are both acute angles because they are less than 90 degrees. So they are both acute angles. Okay, and at what angle would it stop working as a ramp? It would stop working as a ramp at 90 degrees, which is a right angle, or a quarter turn, because that can't go up a ramp if it's straight up. Okay, so if we look at a book, for example, I don't know if this will help. If this was your ramp, you're on the floor and you're going to try and go up that ramp, you're not going to be able to make it up a ramp at a full 90-degree angle. You won't be able to go up. Okay, so on the share screen, it goes through those answers, but it also shows us a bit of further learning. So we can see here that A is showing us the ramps as a drawing, as an angle that we see mathematically. And so Emma's ramp is larger than Evo's, so it will give you a higher jump. And like the fox or the cat says, both of these angles are smaller than a right angle, so they are both called acute angles. And then like B says, a right angle would not be able to function as a ramp because you cannot travel up it. But then this bottom bit shows us here that the other side of the ramp actually gives you another angle. So where we were going up to Emma's ramp, we were looking at the angle to the floor, from the ramp to the floor as we came up to it. But actually, the bit where Emma's going to go gives us another angle. And you can see here that both of these angles are what kind of angle? They are quite large. So they're both obtuse angles. So that makes me think that if along the straight line, so we've got a straight line along the bottom, to make that straight line, for Emma, she's got an acute angle. And then that makes the other angle an obtuse angle. So let's have a look at Evo's as well. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. There's a small angle, so an acute angle. And then to make that straight line to come the other side of that angle is also an obtuse angle. So both Emma and Evo had a small angle for their ramp. And then the other part of that line, the other angle, the other turn was an obtuse. So both had an acute and an obtuse angle to make that flat line, that half turn. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words today, year 4. I've noticed a bit of a pattern now. I wonder if we'll notice any more as we go through. Or I wonder if we notice any more in our environment. So the think together, my laptop's also going a bit slow. It seems that me and my laptop are both feeling a bit sluggish today. I apologise. So I don't think I've had a coffee, that might be it. So our think together is looking at sorting these angles into the correct column. So in your books, I would like you to, you don't need to draw out the whole table, just write acute, right angle, obtuse, and draw a couple of lines to separate them for me. We definitely will be drawing our lines with a ruler, won't we, year 4, and writing along the lines, even though we're in our maths books. So I would like you to pause and have a go at that, and then we will go through the answers for question 1. Okay, so for question 1, first of all, we can identify the right angles. I wonder if you can tell me why we can identify the right angles quite quickly. Okay, it's because they're usually marked by that square angle shape instead of a curved one. So it's marking that turn with a square instead of a curve, because I think it's probably to do with the fact that right angles make a square, so they're very square, I guess. That might not be the answer, that's just what I think anyway. It's what helps me remember it. So the only right angle will be B, and then our acute angles are A and F, and also E. Okay, now E is a tricky one because it's so very nearly a quarter turn or a right angle that it's trying to trick you a little. If you just tilt your head slightly, you can turn it so that one of the lines is sort of the bottom line. If you tilt your head, you can see that it's actually not quite a right angle, not quite an exact corner of a square. It's a little bit less than that. Okay, but because the that angle is not shown you nice and straight on, it makes it difficult. So do tilt your head if you need to work out the answer. Okay, and then finally the obtuse angles then are C and D, because they are both larger than a right angle but smaller than a half turn. Okay, and then it wants you to order these angles from the smallest to the largest. So start with the smallest angle and work up until you get to the largest one. So I will move the screen so you can see the angles and the table all at once, and then have a go at that for me. Okay, so the smallest angle is F. It's quite clearly very, very small and a tight angle, so a small turn. And then the next one would be A, because that's our other acute angle. And then the next one would be E, because that's the acute angle that looks almost like a right angle. Okay, and then it will be B, which is our right angle. And then our last two, it will be D. And then our largest one is C, because it's very, very open. Okay, well done, guys. Obviously, it's difficult to do this online. It's a little bit more difficult to do this online because in school we could have maybe, you could have had a closer look at them, but you're looking on a screen. So I do appreciate that this is harder. But with that one, we didn't need to measure anything. So hopefully you managed to have a good go at ordering them. Okay, and we finally have our challenge. So if I zoom in so we can see all of it clearly, our challenge is that we need to sort the three shapes below by completing the table, filling in all of the columns. So let's take a column at a time. Column number 1 wants you to decide which shape's got the fewest acute angles, which shape's got the most acute angles, and then the middle will be the other shape that's left over. Now, before you begin, there is a note that I want to make that's really important, and you might want to make a note of this alongside your definitions of angles from yesterday. It's really important that when we're measuring angles of shapes, we make sure we're measuring the angles on the inside, not on the outside. Okay, so my trusty old book is showing quite useful. It's proving very useful. So when we're measuring this angle here of this book, we're measuring the angle on the inside of the shape. Okay, so in this example, it will be the coloured parts. We're measuring inside the coloured bit. So here, we're measuring this part. We are not measuring this part because that is bigger than a half turn, and we know we are not working with bigger than a half turn. So you're always working inside. These are called the interior angles because interior just means the inside. So these are the interior angles, not the exterior ones. Okay, you learn about exterior ones later on. Oh, it has gone all funny there. So take it a row at a time. Look for your acute angles first, the least acute, and then the most acute angles. Then do it with the right angles. Which one's got the fewest right angles? Which one's got the most right angles? And then do it for the obtuse angles as well. I do it a line at a time. And we can see that C is already filled in because actually it's got no right angles. Okay. They look close to being a right angle, but they're either obtuse or acute. Or are they actually? Or obtuse, maybe. I might have given you an answer there. Sorry. So have a go at that for me. Okay then, guys. So for the fewest acute angles, I just had to pause it to work it out as well. I didn't want to do it whilst on the video to you. So the fewest acute angles is, and I kind of gave you the answer here, it is question. It is shape C, because actually, as I was looking at it, I realized that all of the angles in C are obtuse. So that means that it's got the fewest acute angles because it's got 0 acute angles. And as I was turning my head, I realized that all of those angles are close to 90 degrees, close to a quarter turn, but just a little bit over. Okay. And then, so the one with the most acute angles is then B, because it's got 1 right angle and 2 acute angles. And then that means that A is the one in the middle because it's got 2 right angles on the end. Then those next 2 are obtuse. And then that last one is acute. Okay, so it's C, A, B, because it's 0 acute, 1 acute, 2 acute. And then the fewest right angles again is C, because it's only got obtuse angles. There are no right angles. And then B has got 1 right angle and A has got 2. C, B, A. And then finally, the one with the fewest obtuse angles is B, because it's got 0. It's got 2 acute and 1 right angle. And then the next one then is A, because A has got 2 obtuse angles just after the right angles. They're both obtuse. And then finally, the one with the most obtuse angles, because it's got the fewest acute, it's got the most obtuse because it's got only obtuse angles, which is C. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 obtuse angles. Okay. Now, question B is asking you to explore. Okay, so you're going to need to pause the video and try and draw me a 4-sided shape with 3 acute angles and 1 right angle. Okay, the key there is being that you need a right angle. So start with a right angle, and then using those 2 lines that you've got, draw those 2 sides that you've got, draw 2 more sides to make a shape. Can you do that? Have a go for me. Okay, so hopefully you've had a go, and hopefully your page looks very explorative because you have drawn lots and lots and lots of shapes trying to make this work, and you will have found that you cannot make a 4-sided shape with 3 acute angles and 1 right angle, because a 4-sided shape with a right angle needs to have another right angle as well, usually quite opposite. You need to have, well, not necessarily actually, you need to have 2 right angles as the minimum. You cannot have 1. Okay, so that is the challenge. Remember, guys, this is the challenge, so it is going to be more difficult for you. And so as long as you've had a go, then that is absolutely fine, because then I have given you the answer. Okay, so you had your turn, and then I had my turn explaining it to you. Okay, so with these lessons, shape, it comes from textbook C. We're currently on textbook B, so I cannot give you an online resource for it because we don't have access to textbook C until later on in the year. So what I have done is screenshotted for you, or Mrs. Tildesley, I think is screenshotting the questions from the workbook so that we can put them on Class Story as a document for you. Okay, so your maths work will be on Class Story as a document like last week with time. Okay, have a fantastic rest of the day. You're amazing, and I will see you very soon.